Hello hackers and welcome back. You have now successfully decoded one genre, and you did so by finding the parts of what make that genre what it is, or what I like to call the common codes. The craft features in the book were one way to explain that. Some of you found other ways to understand what makes a story, and I really enjoyed reading all of your digital literacy narratives. They were very entertaining. We're going to move on and do the same thing for this next genre, but I want to congratulate everyone first for making it a third of the way through the class and for decoding their first genre. Now, hopefully all of you were able to put a journal entry into Blackboard for last night. It was due last night by midnight. If you didn't and you want to get that in late, please do so. Any of the work that we do in here can always be done late. Look at the syllabus for the late work points and contact me if you have any problems. But one thing I want to note about the journals is that I'm not going to grade them or read them and grade them until the end of the semester. Why do I do this? Well, I'd like you to feel free to be honest about what worked and what didn't in these journals, and I don't want you to be under the impression that something you say that didn't work might change my opinion of your work throughout the semester. So I just leave them sitting there, and then I grade them at the end of the semester. As long as you make your word count and you make the deadlines, there'll be no problem, and you'll get full credit for these journals. But if there is any pressing issue that you mentioned in the journal that you'd like me to know right away, please contact me directly and ask me. Alright, so the next genre we're going to be looking at is a digital community informational report blog. It's a lot of words in this one, but it'll make sense once we start doing the readings. If you look at this purpose chart, our purpose for our narrative blog was to show an event and hopefully make it entertaining, which you all did. The purpose of the digital community information report blog is to explain something. That's what reports do. It's going to be explaining a digital community of your choice. So, a note on group work that I want to mention before we move on, because we'll be starting group work earlier in this next unit. I gave everyone a lot of freedom for the group work, and I did so because I think we can all agree that sometimes in online classes we run into this very perfunctory formula for responding to each other. And I haven't seen anyone do that in this class, but I'm sure you've noticed in other classes that this sometimes happens. So it says discussion board post, student, I love bread. Me, Joe, I agree with you. I love bread too. I like the part when you said you love bread. Great point. Now, this is obviously satirizing the kind of discussion board posts that we normally do in online classes, but I think it also makes a good point that those discussion board posts in Blackboard aren't really always that good of a discussion. That's why I wanted to give everyone the freedom to use whatever tools necessary to have good discussions and ultimately to do great work in creating that first word cloud in which we visualize the genre, the first genre we worked on. And if any of the group work was confusing, it was probably because I gave you a lot of freedom. I'm going to try to explain a few things about group work that might help it be a little more structured for this next unit. And again, if you have any problems with group work or interaction with your group, feel free to contact me immediately, and we can figure out how to work that out. So there are a few ways that I noticed people doing group work and doing well in group work. And a few things that I want to mention before we move on. So a pseudonym is something that is like an alias or a username. And for the people who jumped onto Discord, you had to make up a pseudonym. And you only knew each other through pseudonyms if you were in different classes. This might be the same for any other programs you're using. And it's completely okay if you're helping do the group work. That's not a problem. Now, if you decide to do group work on Discord and want to get credit for doing that group work, you might just email me with your pseudonym, but it's okay to operate under this alias. And I think you'll find once we start investigating some of these digital communities that you're interested in, that pseudonyms are an interesting thing. It's different than being anonymous, right? Because you can track that username, and that username has a particular persona based on how that person interacts with the community. Another thing that I want to mention about group work is the difference between collaborating in real time and not real time. The fancy words for these are synchronously and asynchronously, but you don't have to remember that. You just have to remember that there are two ways that we can do group work online, and they're both effective. If you have the planning and the applications to be able to do real-time collaboration with your group, that's awesome. But you'll have to make sure to pick a time that everyone will be online and be able to do that, right? Or at least a few of you. If you don't have time to be able to plan and do this kind of collaboration in real time, that's just fine. You just might want to make sure that what you upload to the group is comprehensive enough so that it really helps group work if you're not able to be in those discussions. So I found two types of ways that students interacted when I gave them the freedom here. Students either did all the codes and gave examples and posted that to the discussion board to help the group, or they were in the middle of those discussions. And it doesn't mean you can't do both. But I just want you to be aware that there are two main ways to interact with the group, and they are both completely fine. So this is the prompt for our next blog. I'm going to go over it very quickly. Basically, you're going to be doing primary research, and more on that later, about a digital community. Now, a digital community is something where, as a place where people have a lot of interaction and they have a feeling of belonging. This could be a forum for a sports or hobby, a forum for particular fandoms. I've listed some stuff here, but these are just suggestions. I'd really like you to find a digital community that you are interested in. And everything is pretty much the same down here when it comes to the expectations of the blog. You want to use the correct codes for this genre, which will be different. And you want to make sure that you have a compelling title. Now notice that it's 1,000 words instead of 750 this time, a little longer. And then one thing that I'll mention, and I will help everybody with, is that you want to have some type of links to important information about your digital community. And those can be done in the blog tool. There's a little link icon, so that will be easy to do. Just one or two, right? You might link to the site where the community gets together or signs up. But the main thing we're going to do is report on one of these digital communities. Now, I also think it's important that we wrestled with group work, because those groups that we form are just small digital communities, and based on interaction and really the social things that happen in that group and the teamwork, right, they could have been effective digital communities or maybe not so effective digital communities. You'll want to pick a group this time, because we'll change up the groups, and make sure you pick a group where you think that your way of working will fit in with the rest of the group. So we're looking at different codes. We're looking at different expectations for different genre. And it's important that we look at these as groups, because these expectations aren't written in stone. Your group comes up with the expectations, of course based on your reading of those examples and of the textbook. But you'll see here that we're moving on from the codes we used last time. So you won't be mentioning the craft features from the book. You may be mentioning other things from the book, probably from the reporting chapter, but those craft features belong to a different genre. Informational report is a separate genre, and we'll have separate codes. Another way of saying it is there are separate social expectations or social codes that make up a report, that make the report different than a story, or different than a grocery receipt, or different than any number of other things that could comprise a genre. So what you'll be doing is reading some examples, just like we did last time, reading some examples of this genre, decoding the genre, and we're going to start our group work on creating that word cloud. We don't have to create it this week, but we're going to start that work. And I've given you a little bit more direction in the learning module on how you might do that and make group work more rewarding and more interactive. All right, well, congratulations on decoding your first genre, and I hope that you have good luck in decoding the next genre. And we're going to start by reading examples of that genre this week, and we're going to start our work, group work, on decoding that genre. If anyone has any questions or concerns, feel free to contact me, and I hope to see you all online.